Welcome to Rates and Barrels. It is Sunday, September 28th. Derek VanRiper, Eno Sarris here with you with our 2025 MLB playoff preview. The field is set. Eno, the Mets are not in it. That was the biggest drama, I think, as we headed into the final day of the regular season. But both the AL East and the AL Central were up for grabs. The Jays managed to hold off the Yankees by winning their final game. Both teams won on the final day, but the Jays get the tiebreaker and that number one seed in the East. And the Guardians have won the AL Central, which is just unthinkable. If you told us that even 3 weeks ago, we would have laughed in your face.
It is the biggest comeback ever in a division. I think it unfortunately loses a little juice in the wildcard era. Because when you come back and roar to the division lead and the people that collapsed, quote unquote, get to put up a social media post saying clinched with Scooble roaring and get to have a champagne shower. It feels like, okay. And then they play each other again. It's like, it just seems like Groundhog's Day a little bit with the Tigers and Guardians. Sun comes up in 2045, Tigers Guardians still playing.
It'll be their third series in 3 weeks when they meet in the wild card round, which gets underway on Tuesday. We're going to preview each of the 4 wild card round series. We're not going to talk a ton about the teams that have first round buys. We'll dig more into their profiles on our episode that comes out on Tuesday. We'll also do an autopsy on the Mets that day. If you're a Mets fan and you want to avoid that, just a heads up, just like a fair warning. That's what's on the docket, because that episode's going to come out before any of those games are played. So a little bit of a timing situation for us on the pod, trying to work through all of that. But let's dig into some of these wild card round matchups. Yankees-Red Sox, 2 teams we never get to see on a big stage. They get each other in the wild card round this year. And just thinking about how they match up, I looked at the Yankees throughout most of the season as one of those upper tier playoff teams, one that I think has a better chance of making the deep run, even though we both know any team in this field is capable of winning the World Series. All it takes is getting here to have that actually be an outcome. But the Yankees, to me, are just a little bit better in most facets across the board. As you broke it down piece by piece, what did you see as a possible edge for the Red Sox?
Well, I had this format that we developed in a piece for the late Yankees versus Red Sox series that we've now taken to all the previews on The Athletic. And it just takes the team apart into the rotation, the bullpen, the power, the contact, and the defense. And if you just look at it that way, I do think that the Red Sox have an edge in the bullpen. They have a better strikeout rate as a team over the season. And I think the biggest, most obvious edge between these two teams is the Red Sox defense. They are a better defensive team, and it's pretty easy to kind of go position by position and say, ooh, I take the Red Sox, I take the Red Sox, I take the Red Sox. Maybe not at every single position, but at enough where you say, okay, this is a better defense, and the defensive numbers support that kind of a conclusion. The problem with this format, as much as it is interesting because it breaks the team into different segments that we can compare them, it is a little bit like the StatCast sliders, where not all of these key areas are the same amount of key. And that what I'm saying is the Yankees' supremacy in the power department is so far. You also don't get a sense of how big the edge is, right? Mm-hmm. I just have a team there. There's just one name there. It's either or, binary. But they were so far the best power hitting team in the big leagues that they had the best offense in the big leagues. And the difference between their offense and the Boston offense was first for the Yankees and 12th the Red Sox. And then you have to think about the fact that Red Sox offense that put up a 12th number had Rafael Devers for a little bit, had Roman Anthony in it, had some key parts that are not on the field right now for them. So I give this one to the Yankees because I just see such a supremacy in offense. And I think the rotation might be an edge for the Yankees too, although it's close there too. I think it's a spot or two at most if you were doing rankings. But if they play them to a standstill with the starting staff and they reduce the bullpen to only the arms they trust, and then they have a large supremacy in offense, that's sort of how I see this matchup going down.
I think what makes things really tough right off the top, though, is that the Red Sox will have Garrett Crochet available. They can use him on regular rest, actually a little extended rest for the start of this matchup, and that neutralizes the overall
at least
strength,
one
right?
of them. Yeah.
At
least one of them, yeah.
I think that's going to be really, really key to see how
but
they
I'll
fare
probably
in
take
that
the
game.
Yankees starters in the other two games.
Right. Good chance this one goes 3, I think, just based on the parties involved. But I look at this Red Sox team, and I think the problem I have, it is a little power light, which is weird to say about a Red Sox team entering the final day of the regular season. 184 homers, 8th among teams that made the playoffs. So below average for the postseason field. Up and down the lineup, like you see quality hitters. We've talked about Trevor Story as someone who's had a really good, healthy season in Boston for the first time since signing that big deal. He's added some depth to that lineup. Ceddanne Rafaela's been a bit better this year. William Abreu's kind of underrated. Which Alex Bregman did they get? First half Alex Bregman, where they looked like a brilliant front office, or second half Alex Bregman, where you think he's going to just stay there? He's not going to opt out of that deal.
Last 30 days where they've been missing a lot of Roman Anthony, and it's been the second half Alex Bregman, and there is no Rafael Devers. They have a 131 isolated slugging. That's 27th in the big leagues. Mm-hmm. I won't tell you who 28th is.
Thanks.
You don't want to know.
Got 2 guesses, and the second one doesn't count.
You're right. Yeah. But I mean, I agree with you. I think that it's, and again, you say, okay, well, the Red Sox have better contact, but it's not so much better that you're like, oh, the Red Sox are going to be like the go-go Sox, and they're going to, strike out 16% of the time, put a bunch of balls in play and run around. I mean, in the last 30, the Red Sox strikeout rate is 22.1, and the Yankees is 26.6. I mean, that's pretty big, but 22.1 is like slightly better than league average, right? It's not like they're not a league leader. They're not up there with the Padres and the Blue Jays and stuff like that.
There is an injury we're keeping a pretty close eye on for this series in particular. Jazz Chisholm Jr. got hit by a pitch on Saturday. Didn't play on Sunday with the AL East up for grabs, so I think there's at least some question as to whether he'll go Tuesday. We'll see if we get an update prior to first pitch. But the quality of this Yankees lineup, beyond Aaron Judge, it's still there. I mean, they lost Juan Soto, and I think backfilled about as well as you can. There was no 1-for-1 fallback option. Bellinger's been solid. They've gotten a season out of Trent Grisham that I don't think anybody could have seen coming. Jazz put together a 30-30 year. Giancarlo Stanton still hits the ball extremely hard. Ben Rice has been very good. So it's not just a top-heavy Aaron Judge-driven lineup. It is a group of hitters that will create some matchup nightmares for the Red Sox, and if they make a deeper run, for a lot of teams throughout this postseason. Any other thoughts on this matchup, though, for these two teams that we see get together frequently in the regular season?
I could see Cam Schlittler being huge. I just, the way that we've spoken this into existence is to say that, like, okay, maybe Crochet wins the first, and then the second, is Rodon has a pretty good advantage there. So then the third one comes up, and you've got Luis Heel and Cam Schlittler against Giolito, Tolley, Early. I mean, all their guys, right? And for as excited as we've been about Peyton Tolley and Early,
yes, Connolly Early,
C Early. Excited as we've been, Cam Schlittler has really been putting it together. I just wanted to point out that I think he's kind of figured out the four seam and sinker mix. There's, some of the evidence is the 2 games in a row that he's used the sinker the most over the last 2 games. I mean, it was Baltimore both times, so there could be a scouting report element. But there's also kind of a horizontal movement situation there where the last 2 games he's had the most stable relationship between the horizontal movement of his four seam and the horizontal movement of his sinker, suggesting that what I think is that he's finally found an ability to separate them, which I've always thought was kind of key for him because he does have really good breaking balls, but he has iffy shape for a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. So to have two of those, I think, would be ideal. And I think he could just really come in and dominate at a really key time. And maybe it is even in relief of Rodon, whatever it is. Maybe it is to slam the door shut if they manage to get some runs together against Crochet, So Cam Schlittler is my wild card for this wild card series.
Yeah, I think he'll be used in some capacity, and he has shown a lot over the course of his rookie season. I do think you have to look at the Yankees bullpen as two pretty different units prior to the trade deadline and since the trade deadline, right? David Bednar's in that closer role now. They added Camilo Doval. They've got Fernando Cruz healthy right now. They still have Luke Weaver and Devin Williams. It's a good group of relievers, a very good group of relievers, but the overall body of work from that unit over the course of the season might lead you to think they're a little bit worse than they actually are. So I think that's one part of this Yankees team that needs a little extra attention. And then my kind of wild card big question for the Red Sox is Brian Bayo. Great results in the regular season. Best ERA we've seen so far, best whip, 335 and 124 respectively. He just does it without missing a lot of bats. And that makes me nervous against the team that can do damage the way the Yankees can.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. I mean, he's probably one of the biggest outliers in terms of talking about K minus BB, and the season he had. His K minus BB is 9%. League average is 14%.
Woo.
So that suggests he should be below league average. Now, the only place where K minus BB really is soft in terms of being predictive are with sinker ballers, guys who can keep the home run rate down. And maybe theoretically at least keep the batting average on balls in play down. Now, those are two things that Bayo has done this year. Do we believe in the sinker on the same class as maybe a Fromber or, other sinker guys that have been able to outperform their K minus BB in the past?
I'm not there, but I like that you made the comparison because I think that's sort of the leap of faith you have to take to look at Bayo and say what he's been doing in the regular season is going to be sustainable, right? It's going to be the sinker leading the way and really keeping that ball in the yard throughout this postseason. I think it's going to be really important for the Red Sox if they're going to get through this series, but also if they want to make a deep run. Do you have a prediction for this series?
It's Yankees in 3 for me.
Yeah, I think it's also Yankees in 3. Should be a very fun series to watch, though, seeing these teams get together for the 14th, 15th, and probably 16th time this season.
This will be a recurring theme, this playoffs.
Yes, exactly. The same could be said of the Guardians and Tigers. Third series in 3 weeks. Hey, look, Tigers fans, if you're mad about what happened in September, what else could you ask for? The opportunity for some revenge right off the cuff. Now, these teams see each other a lot. We've talked about them extensively, especially the Guardians throughout the final month of the season on this show. How do they actually stack up with each other? And again, I want to remind everyone, beating Tarek Skubal twice in 2 weeks seems like a pretty fluky outlier sort of thing, especially the way they did it the second time. That didn't look like some kind of, we figured out Tarek Skubal. That was more of a bad inning that just got away from him, bad defensive play. Hero ball from Skubal that went wrong. But as you look at these two teams, where do you think the advantages are on the margins?
Yeah, I'm going to give there might be some controversial moments here. I'm going to give the rotation to the Tigers. There have been some really good performances from the Guardians in the rotation. Gavin Williams has been standout. Tanner Bybee has been great in September. But in some, I'm still going to give it to the Tigers. There's too many numbers where you look at projections, you look at what they've done over the course of the season in terms of WAR, in terms of KMAS BB. The Tigers own the edge in all of those. And maybe that some of that's from their 4th and 5th guys. I don't know. I still see Skubal at the top. I take him. I'm going to take one of their 2nd and 3rd guys because I like Troy Melton. I like Tyler Holton. I like some of the relievers in this sort of chaos scenario. So the scenario that I'm building is Skubal wins game 1, and they just have to find a way to win another game. The edge up in the bullpen, I think, of course, goes to the Guardians, but I think it's a little bit thinner than it's been in the past. obviously Emmanuel Clase is missing. And I don't think that as much as Hunter Gaddis is all right and some of their guys have been all right, I don't think that somebody has stepped up behind Cade Smith to be like, oh, well, it's okay. They got Cade Smith part 2, this dude. I don't have that dude for you. So I think this edge is a little bit smaller than people might think it is. Just like the edge the Tigers have in the power department has been big over the course of the season, but right now feels pretty paper thin. The Tigers slugged under 400 against the Guardians in their season series. It seems like the Guardians have their number in terms of suppressing the Tigers' power bats. And if that's true, then it's going to be a really tough series for the Tigers. And that's been true recently. Nobody's been hitting homers. Riley got 1 homer in that last series, and maybe Parker Meadows got 1. But they need a little more power, and that's really been the story of the Tigers' collapse for me, is the disappearance of the power.
Yeah, it's kind of a 2-part thing. I mean, the Tigers played poorly at a time when the Guardians actually played exceptionally well. Some of it was also the turnaround of Tanner Bybee. They got some good performances from Slade Ciccone and Joey Cantillo. Gavin Williams has been a lot better later in the year. He has been a regular part of this show throughout the season. So I think some of it's just like the pitching we've liked at various points all started to click together in that rotation. After months of wondering, have they lost something on the starting pitching side? Is it just not quite the same as it used to be in Cleveland? At least for the stretch run, a lot looked like it was back in place in that regard. I think your overall breakdown, though, like the advantages you doled out here seem pretty fair. I don't think having 3 of 5 edges necessarily means you're the favorite to win the series either. For what it's worth.
And here's why. Again, it's the sliders may not be of equal value, and right. To say that the Guardians have been struggling, and I mean the Tigers have been struggling, and the Guardians, have been surging. Just sort of belies the fact that yes, the Tigers are the 24th best offense over the last 30 days. That is bad. But how did Cleveland win all those games with the 17th best offense? And what we found in the past, and this is full season numbers, so I'm conflating last 30 with full season, I know, but I'm just saying that what we found is, I think, one World Series champion in the last 30, 40 years that had a below average offense, and it was the Braves. Yes. One of those Braves teams with like the Hall of Fame rotation.
Yes, I have used that as an anchor for my own hope at various points in recent off seasons, or postseasons rather, because there are teams built like that get into the playoffs pretty much every year, and sometimes it works. But I don't think they have the elite bullpen either, even though they've played like that down the stretch.
I mean, I have to say, like, Gavin Williams and Tanner Bybee are no John Smoltz.
They're not. We like them. They're good pitchers, but they're not there. They're not at that level.
And full season numbers for the Guardians, 28th best offense. Their full season offense is 225, 296 OBP, 372 slugging. I'm calling for that magic to end. Those numbers don't make sense to me. That is not a winning team. Do you know who's around them in offense? Colorado, Pittsburgh, Chicago White Sox, Angels, Texas, who totally collapsed. Those are the teams that are around them at the bottom.
When do those teams play?
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting point, though, that was made by Chad Young, friend of ours, Autonew Fangraphs and Guardians fan, watches this team really closely. He just pointed out that great base running was also a big part of what they were doing in the second half, which I think a lot of teams that are light in power often do.
They have to do that.
Either steal bases or they even just run the bases really well beyond stolen bases because they have to. You can't afford to miss opportunities when you do get runners on. They do that really well.
But I'm going to give that more to Milwaukee than Cleveland. I mean,
sure.
Full season base running numbers, Milwaukee, number one by far, 15 base running runs to Tampa Bay Rays with 12.8, Chicago Cubs 10.8, Cleveland 7th. Yes, I get what you're saying, but that belongs, I think, in the Milwaukee preview more than the Cleveland preview.
Well, I think you can streak in a way where everything, like your pitching's really good, your defense is consistently good, which makes your pitching play up even more. And then you're doing a great job of just cashing in opportunities. When you do get runners on base, you're driving them in, right? And that's noisy, I think, at best. Like, so you have to keep that in mind too. It's not a complete fluke. This is a team that has some playoff experience, but I understand the skepticism because 3 weeks ago, no one thought they were going to end up here. Add Parker Messick to the list of surprisingly effective pitchers from the stretch run too.
Which will also help assuage some of my concerns about the sort of middle of this bullpen, when you have Messick coming in as your maybe primary lefty in the bullpen in the playoffs, that's pretty good.
Are you taking the Tigers to win this series though?
I mean, that was the subtext in there.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure it was an official prediction.
It's an official prediction. Tigers in 3. I have to get a little spicy. Please don't. You're going to take the Guardians. You're going to take the Guardians?
I'll take the Guardians in 3 just to have something that doesn't dovetail perfectly with you. There's so little to separate them. The reason why my only hesitation in picking against them, again, it's not the form. I don't care about late season form. I just don't think it. We've looked at it enough. It doesn't seem to have any sort of real predictive value. The Scooble factor. I do think that's very high probability a Tiger win. That's the one thing that makes it hard for me to pick against.
Right. If you get that one win in the bank, then you're just scratching your way to another. That's all you got to do. Just find one in the next 2. And also when we had that graph up of, different, September records and like where you got in the playoffs, there was like an artifact hidden within that I thought was pretty interesting. There was one level where it looked like your September record mattered a little bit, and that was getting to the wild card. And then it totally disappeared at every level after that. So look at it. So the red dots on the bottom here in wild card, there are a lot more, right? There are a lot more on the right. The right is a hot September, right? Exactly. But that's just getting to the wild card. And of course, you kind of have to be hot to get to the wild card because you're separating yourself from all the other 84 win teams. You know what I mean? And then the fact that it disappears after that suggests that there really isn't that much correlation. The correlation is you might have had a hot September to sneak in, to get that foot in, but it doesn't help you anymore after that.
Yeah. So with all of that in mind, I think this is going to be a great series. I'll take the Guardians in 3. If they find a way to beat Scooble again, man, I'll give the Tigers all the credit in the world if Scooble loses game 1 and the Tigers somehow bounce back from that mentally and win the next 2.
They'll be shot. Yeah, if they lose in game 1, I will immediately regret my pick.
Guys, so we're split on this one, which will be fun. We'll see if we split on any of the others. I think and we'll just find out. I actually don't know. We didn't write these down before time. We just started rolling when the games ended. Let's flip the script and go over to the National League. Take a look at the 4-5 matchup between the Cubs and the Padres. Cubs get to host that as the 4 seed in this one. This Cubs team at one point looked like a powerhouse offense. And Pete Crow-Armstrong cooled off in the second half. Seiya Suzuki cooled off in the second half. Kyle Tucker missed some time with a calf injury. The good news is they're all healthy. They're all there. And Seiya Suzuki even hit a little bit at the very end of the season. Maybe he's rounding back into form. We kind of talked about his approach, maybe going back closer to what he had done previously. I think this is a really good, balanced lineup for the Cubs. I think it's actually built to handle playoff pitching really well. And the toughest thing about any team in the playoffs right now might be San Diego's bullpen and bullpen depth. There might be one unit that another team has pitching wise, the Dodgers rotation, because of who's in it and the length, the number of innings they can cover, probably has a higher value, higher level of trust than the Padres bullpen, but it's close. The Padres bullpen is going to be a problem, but I actually think the Cubs lineup is good enough to hold its own against that group.
Might be the single most dominant unit among all of these that we're going to talk about in this wildcard era and round. If you put the sliders up, I'm going to give rotation to the Padres. It's not as much of a strength as you might have thought going into the season. But Michael King has shown me enough. Nick Pavetta's been good all year. And Yu Darvish as a 3, I think, beats the threesome at the top of the Cubs rotation, especially with Cade Horton out. The bullpen, as we say, is the most dominant single feature of maybe any team in the playoffs, other than maybe the Yankees' power, I think is another one. Cubs get power. Cubs get lineup. So again, this is one of those ones where it looks like you're splitting the offense and saying power to the Cubs, contact to the Padres, but I'll take the Cubs lineup over the Padres one easily. So if we're talking about offense, it goes to the Cubs, and then defense pretty easily goes to the Cubs too, where the Padres have gotten old fairly quickly, and they're not really stand out in any defensive position. You got Xander Bogaerts at shortstop. Manny Machado has taken a step back finally. I mean, it just seems like he had elite defense forever. There's, I think, the real key question here is, can they keep the Cubs lineup in check for 4 innings? I think that's all it takes. I think it's just 4, and it might just be 3, because the Padres pen goes Suarez, Miller, Morejon, Estrada. Yuki Matsui has a 2.3 ERA over the last 30 days. I don't know if you put him in the circle of trust, but even if you don't, I put Wandy Peralta in the circle of trust, and I think David Morgan is a really good pitcher. So you go 5 or 6 deep in the bullpen. You could basically treat every game as a bullpen game. You're putting an opener out there in front of the bullpen, and you're saying, Yu Darvish, if you walk 2 guys in the second, you might be out. That's how I'd manage it. I'm not sure Mike Schilt would manage it that way, but I think he might. It is a 3-game series. It's pretty much, do or die.
I think as long as Mike Schilt doesn't bunt excessively, we're in for a really great series. I mean,
play for multiple runs, please.
He's like, I got a great bullpen. I just got to play for 1. It's like, your lineup's not that bad. Like, you can let some of these guys hit. It's going to be.
You don't really want to win 1-0 against the Cubs.
It's going to be okay. I mean, a couple things that are really important for this series. I mentioned Tucker coming back from the calf injury for that final series of the regular season. Daniel Palencia got back during the final week, had a few scoreless innings. Good to see that. You mentioned Cade Horton. That rib injury that he suffered was revealed to be a right rib fracture. He's on the IL, and he will not be back until at least in Game 5 of the NLDS round, if the Cubs get that far. And I think that ends up being a really big injury for them, because Cade Horton was excellent, especially in the second half of this season.
Yeah, it's a real problem to not have him. Also, just because in terms, I know that maybe his stuff plus number isn't amazing for Cade Horton, but just in terms of stuff with a small s, he's been the most dominant of that team. We've seen a little bit of a sloughish, a little bit of regression from Matt Boyd and Shohei Monaga. So we're still going to see what can they do, and it being in Wrigley is important. Because, as we've said, it suppresses righty power a little bit, so that helps the lefties who have given up homers in their past. So I think this is going to be the best series, maybe.
I don't know if there's even really a bad one of the 4, but this is definitely an exciting one. I think there's a really fun part of the matchup that I have no real feel for, and it's that even if the power's not there for the Cubs, they can steal bases. They're one of the better base stealing teams in the league. And I wonder, with Freddie Fermin as their primary catcher, how much have the Padres done to temper the run? And can you, if you get base runners on against that elite bullpen, is that a vulnerability? Right? If you can grind them down and stress them out with a base runner, can that be the X factor that makes the big difference and actually chips away just a little bit at the Padres' greatest strength?
Yeah, I mean, they gave up 106 stolen bases on the season. That's 20th, but that doesn't include a bunch of Elias Diaz in there. Mm-hmm. And so I've seen Fermin make some really nasty throws. Good nasty, really, really good throws. And I think he's pretty good defensively, but you normally steal off the pitcher. I think we've talked about this a fair amount. The pitchers times to the plate are more varied than catcher pop times. Catcher pop times differ by 0.15 seconds between the top and the bottom. And so that doesn't seem to me like a big enough of a window to be like, oh yeah, that's who you're stealing it on. So who you're stealing it on was Jason Adam. And then with 12, Dylan Cease with 12, who might be a bullpen arm for the series. And then Yu Darvish and Randy Vasquez with 10 each. So maybe Darvish and Pivetta, who gave up 9. But they gave up 9 and 10. You know, Pivetta gave up 9 stolen bases over 181 innings. So I would say that's actually pretty decent. You know, I don't think that there's a real problem. There's no Noah Syndergaard here.
Yeah, so we'll see if that aspect of the Cubs offense gets suppressed by the Padres batteries in this series. How about a prediction for Cubs versus Padres?
I'm going Padres in 3. I'm going to say Padres starters put together 9 innings.
Nine innings over 3 games, but they're going to win 2?
Yes. There you go. That's my very precise prediction.
You're laughing about it because you're thinking about DS and CS and maybe World Series predictions. You're like, it's not going to catch up to them. It doesn't matter. They have too many.
They'll be fine. They'll just ride the
They'll just keep
the
doing this. Extra rest days for the NL throughout the postseason. They're going to be fine.
All their arms just collectively fall off at the end.
I'll go Cubs in 3. I think it's going to be some really low-scoring games to the point where I think defense is going to matter, and I think the Cubs might be the best defensive team in the playoffs. I mean, it's probably between the Cubs and the Blue Jays for those honors. Brewers probably maybe up there in the top 3 as well. But I think everything is going to matter. Playing good, clean baseball in this series is going to matter because I think runs are generally going to be at a premium, in part because the Padres don't have a lot of thump, and in part because their pitching should be good enough to really keep what is, I think, a good Cubs lineup somewhat in check. But I'm on the Cubs side of this one. I'll go Cubs in 3, and it's going to be a grind. Let's get to the Dodgers-Reds matchup. Yes, Dodgers-Reds, not Dodgers-Mets, Dodgers-Reds. We talked for a few weeks about the Reds being a team that you don't really want to see in the playoffs because when you shorten up their rotation especially, and then take some of the extra back-end starters and cover up some of the middle-inning flaws in their bullpen, they can be a pretty problematic matchup, even for a top-end lineup as good as the Dodgers.
Yeah, I combined Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo into one pitcher, and he had, 250 innings of a 3.07 ERA. And I said, that's pretty dominant. It was with the 10 K9 and 1.8 walks per 9, like just a dominant top 2. And yet I give the edge for the Dodgers in the rotation because if you combine Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Shohei Ohtani, and Blake Snell, you get 300 innings of a 2.5 ERA with almost exactly the same peripherals. A few more walks, of course, because you got Blake Snell in there. But I think this is it's obvious. Obviously, they're happy to get in, but this is the worst of all matchups for the Reds. And of course, that's obvious. But, it's just like they get neutralized. The one thing that they could have done better than almost any other team, the Dodgers do better. Yep. I gave the bullpen to the Reds, and this is after we've cast aspersions on the Reds bullpen all year. And I just couldn't find a last 30 number, projection number that looked at the relievers between the two squads and said that the Dodgers relievers were better. Now, I have a huge asterisk on this, and I tried to put this into the preview as much as possible, and I want to put this in here as much as possible. I think the way this plays out, the Dodgers may have an edge in the bullpen because they will have Emmett Sheehan, Clayton Kershaw, and Tyler Glasnow in the bullpen for this series. And I think those guys are pretty good. I mean,
yeah, they at least have the option. I mean, Kershaw pitched the regular season finale on Sunday, so they could just leave him off the wild card round roster and then pop him back on for the DS round.
he's almost the least important. I mean, just having Tyler Glasnow and Emmett Sheehan in my back pocket, I'm just like, here we go.
Yeah, you've got insurance if starters go short. And then Roki Sasaki made 2 appearances out of the bullpen, 4 Ks, no walks, touched triple digits. I mean, we've talked about it before. He's worked in that role on massive stages before, so it's not there's not going to be a deer in the headlights moment for him as a result of this new role in the postseason. I think that pretty quickly it at least eases some of your concerns, maybe not all of them, right? If you're a Dodgers fan, you're looking at this and saying, well, it still might be Tanner Scott in the 9th and Blake Trinan in the 8th, and they look more hittable than we expected them to at this point in the season. So they're not bulletproof, but they're a lot better when you start taking other pieces of the roster and moving them into these roles, and you just don't have to rely quite as heavily on some of the guys that got you here. And there was a very heavily utilized bullpen early in the year because all the starters were hurt, but now all the starters are healthy at the exact right time of the season. I think that's what makes this Dodgers team really dangerous.
Can I make another incredibly weird, precise prediction for the series?
Always.
Multiple saves, like multiple pitchers getting saves, and some of them getting them with 1 out pitch.
Okay.
I just see like an Alex Vesia, gets a lefty out to finish a game.
Oh, okay. You get a Vesia save,
or
a Roki
Sheehan
save?
throws 2 innings, and then Roki throws 1 to the one last guy, some righty that he just wants to blow away or whatever. I see a revolving carousel in the closer's role of different guys depending on the situation. It's the Dodgers version of pitching chaos, and we've seen it before, and it's not even that much of a bold prediction, but I just wanted to make an incredibly precise, specific, random prediction.
Okay. What's your script for the Reds to somehow score runs against this Dodgers team? Who does it? How do they do it? Like, that's...
Yamamoto has bad games. So the script
Everyone does
is
sometimes.
Yes, the script is Yamamoto. Like, Yamamoto sometimes I think can't find the command, So I think the script is Yamamoto has a little bobble with the command, and Hunter Green has one of those 12 strikeouts, 1 walk, 8-inning masterpieces, and hands it to Pagan, who Tibito's across the line somehow. We did mention, though, that it was surprising us to find that Emilio Pagan has the best fastball velocity of his career and the best stuff numbers of his career, and he's seemingly unlocked a little bit of another level this year. So but I will stop making fun of him.
That seems polite of you.
Yeah.
Chase Burns, part of the bullpen, that actually helps a little bit. Graham Ashcraft has looked a little better back there.
So that's how you win a series. So the rest
Tony
of
Santillan,
the series is that Lodolo pitches 4 really good innings, and then Burns comes for 2, and they figure that one out too.
You basically just win duels and you cash in on your opportunities when they come around. I was just trying to figure out what is it? Is there anything I like about this Reds offense? I mean, I like Ellie De La Cruz. Sure. Can you wreak some havoc on the Dodgers with base stealing if you're getting on base? It's not necessarily the way the Reds are built, as a group.
Yeah. One nice thing about the last 30 days is that Spencer Steer has taken a step forward, especially with the power side, and that they've added Sal Stewart, honestly, to this, because Sal Stewart has an intriguing mix of power and contact, and gives it a little bit of dimension because, I guess Tyler Stevenson has run into some homers. I would say that, at least on the power front, they're in better shape than they have been for most of the season. At least there were real fallow moments for this team where it looked like it was really difficult. This is probably the better, this lineup is looked at. If you look at WRC Plus over the last 30 days, you do get 7 players above 100. And that doesn't count Ellie, who is an ultimate, sort of wild card in this scenario. So if they continue to bat like they've been batting, of course, there's no predictive power of batting over the last 30. I know. But at least this isn't the worst the Reds lineup has looked all year. There have been some key components where Steer and McLean in particular were batters that you thought were lost at times this season. And they've come back a little bit.
Yeah, I think the most surprising thing I can say, though, about the Reds is that scoring runs generally has been much more of a problem for them than we expected it to be. Like that, they're good in the rotation. They're maybe passable in the bullpen, and they are very suspect lineup-wise, which is just not the builds that we've grown accustomed to from this Reds team. But, okay, congrats to Reds fans for getting in, having playoff baseball again, even if it's a tough matchup against the Dodgers. I mean, maybe it's just you feel like you're on a free roll if you're a Reds fan.
Yeah, I mean, the other part of it could be just a collapse of that Dodger bullpen, like it just not working out. They tried to push the buttons, and then there's a 3-run homer off of Tanner Scott.
We've seen it. We've seen it a little bit, especially in September. We're going to keep an eye on the status of Will Smith. There's a chance he's back from the IL. He's been down with a hand injury, could be back for this series. Max Muncy will be back for this series. He's been slowed by a lower body injury. Kirby Yates can't return for this series, could return for the NLDS if you're looking for one more veteran bullpen arm, but he's on the IL with a hamstring injury right now. Michael Kopech could return in the playoffs, but he hasn't been very good when we've seen him, so that's probably more of a later series sort of return if he's able to return at all. Are you going to make the big upset prediction here? Are you going to take the Reds?
No, going chalk. Dodgers in 2.
Dodgers in 2, right. Yeah, you got it. Okay. That's got it. I'll say Dodgers in 2 also because that's what I think is going to happen, but I hope we are pleasantly surprised by a different result. I would love to be wrong here. It would be a fun
story. It would be such a fun story, And, we could write fun stories off it, and we'd have, C. Trent Rosecrans doing his business, and it would be really fun.
More C. Trent? Yes, I think that would be great. I'd love to see C. Trent advance to the DS round of the playoffs. That would be good for all of us. Let us know what you think in the Discord. You can join the Discord with the link in the show description. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. We'll have episodes throughout the entire postseason. That's going to do it for this episode of Rates and Barrels. We're back with you on Tuesday.
Thanks for listening.